A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I know a few of you are still on the way, but thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome to our conference. I am absolutely looking forward to it. It is our Circular Energy Conference as well as our AGM for 2024, and it's all about hashtag Thrive, Change, and Challenge. My name is Nomalanga Stole Ntombebala Malanga, and I am going to be with you for the day. Very strict on time, and so if I ask us to sit at the set times, please make sure we've got a very full program, as you would see, and I really would like us to come to the end of the day at the right time at 4 o'clock. Just a couple of house rules. Like any house, there are rules. If I can ask that our phones are on silent or vibrate. I am a former banker. I love money. If I hear do, it's 100 rand. I'm sure we'll find somebody to give that to in the circular energy. But also just bathrooms. The back bathrooms next to the camera, that's where you'll find the ladies. There's two doors, one at the front and one on the other side, and then you just walk down, and then the gentleman's one is just on the other side of the TV screen. We are going to have a wonderful day. Yes, it is a little bit nippy, but I am glad to be back home. I was actually in the Netherlands. I got back last night. It is rain, it is drizzle, it is cold, it is overcast in 3, 4, 5 minutes all at once. So very glad to be home. So I'm not going to take too much of intros. For those that love social media, LinkedIn especially, don't forget, as you talk about today, as you talk about our speakers, as you talk about what we do here at Circular Energy, please make sure hashtag Thrive, Change, Challenge, and please, we are on LinkedIn, tag us. Let's make sure that today is trending. For those that don't know who we are, let them want to know who we are, and those that know us, let's give them all the information. If you get a few nuggets from our speakers, please put those nuggets and then also tag the speakers as well. Thank you, and thank you. So I am going to start and introduce our first speaker, and our session firstly is how EPR forms part of circular transition. I am going to read her bio, so please do indulge me. We chatted very briefly now, and she, gave me some scribbles, and she says, this one I love very much so. And so I am going to begin. Who is our first speaker? Her name is Joanne Dean, Circular Energy, trained and qualified in both South Africa and Illinois. Her roots remain very African. SAIEC Energy Storage, AEC Board Member, SAREC Vice Chair, SAESA spokesperson and incoming chair, and she said this one I'm very excited about, BUSA Chair of Energy, as well as in partnership with NECOM. I really just want to read her bio because for me it settles the room and just tells us what we are here about. It's all about renewable energy, and she works with the carbon committees with government in renewable energy storage, decarbonization, and GHG targets, all spilling into the just energy transition. 18 years experience in design and construction of process and flow control plants in the mining sector. In 2000, inspired by Attenborough, Bloomberg, Ban Ki-moon, and figures and her intrinsic need to make a difference to the world, and that's why we're here all to make a difference. She joined the Chamber of Commerce, overseeing government relationships as well as LED development, while furthering her studies in environmental engineering, specializing in waste, water, and energy disciplines, as well as coupled with carbon reduction project development, Illinois, and GHG protocol. And so she's armed with a practical knowledge. The once wannabe activist evolved into a strategist in developing carbon reduction projects in the waste and energy spaces. She's currently driving decarbonization project development, mainly in South Africa, as well as the SADC. And from the energy sector, she's championing the nascent disruptor energy storage in Africa, which has the greatest potential for unlocking value chain and localization for Africa. And lastly, her belief, the rationale underlying the nascent endeavor of a green economy, very important where we are currently. For developing countries is that the market should become the vehicle for tackling the environmental crisis of climate change, that Africa can and will make a quantum leap as opposed to the trapped Annex 1 world powers that cannot be due to their historical industrial choices. Ladies and gentlemen, as she comes up to open our session, please welcome Joanne Dean onto the platform.
Right. Good morning, everybody. I think I wanted to open the address with saying, esteemed citizens of Planet A, there is no Planet B. That's the code that I live by, and that's the reason that we're here. We've got some influential people here. We've got people that are aspiring. We've got a brilliant lineup of speakers. So I'm sure most of you don't want to sit and listen to me rattling on. And I have this challenge lately because I've Adage, by the way, it's my 18th birthday today. I remain 18. I just look a little bit older because I've been working on a renewable energy project that's sort of made the veneer a little bit tarnished, but we're getting there. And in that, I seem to have lost my eyesight. So you're going to have to excuse me because I like to look at you and I like to see your expressions, but I also need to see my notes. So I've got this new thing of doing this. By the way, these are click specials. They work very well. I sat talking to a gentleman last night. He says he refuses to admit that he has to wear glasses. But we'll have to just see. So firstly, I want to thank Nomalanga for her welcome and for agreeing to be our MC. I think it's going to be brilliant. Thank you, Nomalanga. Just chatting to you for 4 minutes already, you're inspirational. Then the second recognition I want to give to is really to Mesa Frankfurt. We work a long path together. I do a lot of conferencing on the renewable energy space, on decarbonization. I'm still endeavoring coming to look at the motoring and the air shows and that. But we've got they're a phenomenal company, Mesa Frankfurt, and they've got a leader that never fails to deliver for us. I think everybody's very whacked out with conference. We call it conference fatigue. But Mr. Neil Piper never fails to surprise us, and he manages to draw the threads of what we want to achieve and actually make it happen for us, because these conferences are not just to come and sit. They're not just for bumps or seats. They're really for us to try and inspire people, to bring messages across and to drive both networking and new decision making. So to Neil, thank you very much. You always come through for us, and he's very long suffering, by the way, as well, because we challenge him greatly. I'm sure there's quite a few comments that he takes before he sees us. And then his team, Blessing and Evans today, thank you. Everything is always super professional, and I think we're going to have a brilliant conference. So thank you guys for that. And then obviously our venue, our host, I think you've chosen a brilliant venue. It sort of sets the tone for this conference. And what did I want to focus on? I wanted to focus on circular transition. We all know is the energy transition, well, the waste transition. I'm talking energy because I come from the energy space. The waste transition is very much a linear one, right? We resource it, we produce it, and we consume it in some manner, and we just whack it out somewhere. And nobody focuses on it because it's easy to do the first three, but the elephant in the room is number 4. And the circular transition is to change that and to see how we can better optimize it. So everything in life that we do for this planet, remember I said in the beginning, there's no planet B, guys. We're on planet A, and we need to champion this planet for ourselves and for our children. And I mean, I'm sure, again, some of you might not have grandkids, but I have grandkids, and I think about them, and I think about the next, and I think about what we're doing now and what we're leaving behind. So in my current role, I champion renewable energy, and I'm going to talk a lot about that because that's one of the crises that South Africa faces, and it's one of the biggest waste generators. But I also champion water conservation because my whole circle is also the circular economy, of which waste is a very important part, because if we're going to do the circular economy, it encompasses the energy, the waste, and the water nexus, and they're all intertwined, and they all drive each other. And if you look at the energy, everybody drives to that because you can have triple bottom line returns there. We can produce savings, so people are focused on it, right? There isn't energy, and we can recreate energy. Very few people are looking at water, because water you cannot replicate, you cannot reproduce it. We have to conserve it. And we're very blatant in saying somebody will make a plan. When we look at energy, the people only sat up and gave attention when we had load shedding. Before load shedding, nobody gave attention to that fact. And you can talk to corporates, and I'm not slamming any corporates here, because the corporates that are here are the ones that are actually wanting to participate. But if you look at the corporates that are out there, that you go and talk to them about energy, yes, great. Bring me the renewable energy plant, or give me offsetting and that. If you talk to them about water, yeah, okay. Then I deal with a lot of corporates on decarbonization programs. And the one thing I'll never forget was a Cape Town company that I had written the most beautiful circular transition for them. And they put it on the drawer, it's in that drawer. We might just dig it out. And Cape Town went to net zero for water. And they started phoning and said, "Jo, do you remember how you said we can save water and we can?" And I thought, you know what? When I introduce I don't do the projects, I introduce them and connect them to suppliers. And I felt like saying to the supplier, ringing them up and say, "Okay, right, they're ready to talk, mark it up 4 times." Just because they didn't want to listen. People don't want to listen. We don't listen to the uncomfortable conversations. We only listen to the comfortable ones, or the ones where there can be vested interest. And I'm not criticizing, again, please. What's it? My colleague there, Ron, always says I must put E and O at the bottom of everything I write. So everything that I say is mine. It's my words, and I'm not slamming anybody. So I'm not representing my company, Energy, or anybody else. I'm representing me, and I'm also championing circular energy. So when we said there's an uncomfortable conversation, there's a lady in this room that needs recognition, and that's the inspiration that said, I'm going to take this uncomfortable conversation and I'm going to start making a noise about it. And I'm going to start tabling how and where and why and how do we do this. And that was what was important, because if I had to pose to all of you, here's Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme and here's the PRO. On the PROs, you're going to find a lot of people that want to make a quick buck. And we need to say these things. There's people that are going to do these processes and not champion Planet A and think glibly that there's a Planet B, because they don't worry about tomorrow. We need to be worried tomorrow. So Patricia, she's the CEO of Circular Energy. She was the one that came to me 2 years ago and said to me, or 3 years ago, I think, Patricia, "Jo, you there with all the energy spaces and everything, we have to do something about this. The people aren't listening." To the Department of Environmental Affairs had set up the systems, the schemes, and that they weren't getting the attention. They approached Patricia and said, "Please, tailor with us, help us." Patricia also sits as, I think she's the chair of the waste management for SA. And now she's going to further champion. I think Natal's going to be winning because she's also going to be on the chamber for Ilembe. And all of this common thread is to have that conversation where nobody recognizes her, because she's sitting almost in the back room figuring out, how do we do these tables? How do we factor these things in? How do we produce the records and the systems that you all need? And in that, she encourages the other producer responsibilities and challenge them. That's why if you look at the banners and things, I feel solely the words thrive, change, but most of all challenge belong to Patricia. And I really firstly would like everybody just to give her a round of applause, because she hasn't been recognized. Then for the rest of the day, we have other people that are coming to speak. And if I mispronounce your names, you can come shout at me afterwards. I'm sitting there in the corner. We have Jeremiah from the Department of Environmental Affairs. We know how difficult it is. And we know how many times we've lobbied groups. Even Neil has set conferences for us where we've had the department, and the people just turn a deaf ear. So it is very difficult for them. The scheme and the systems that they have is solid. It's reliable. It's what we need to support. So Jeremiah is going to be addressing us on that. So I don't want to rain on his day. I'm looking forward to hear from that. Kiara, who's going to tell us more about how do we actually do this linear to the circular. We've got Letlolo from MTN. I've heard about his Momo app. And it's something that's very close to my heart, which is his. And then going down, I know we've got Susan from the Waste Pickers, and we've got Spoo. About 4 years ago, when I was doing decarbonization strategies, I was taken on a tour of landfills in the Free State by Detia. And outside Kroonstad is a small landfill that broke my heart. when I realized what waste was about. And it was something that stayed with me. It traumatized me, and it said to me somewhere in the back of my mind, I have to make a difference on this. I can't be fighting for energy and not doing the complete decarbonization. And that's why when Patricia approached me, that's why I was so driven to do this. If I can reflect on that landfill, there are 243 landfills, of which 4 in South Africa are actually lined and licensed. The rest are totally mismanaged, and it's no fault of the government. It's fault of having resources, and it's the fault of us, of private sector, of taking it for granted that I don't want this anymore, because when it's waste, I don't want it, so I just throw it down. Have you ever seen, I've chased off the cars that throw a Coke can out of their window because it just absolutely destroys me to think what happens. So this landfill, there was somebody had thrown away a cow that had died and had actually dumped it onto the landfill, and it had rained, and there was this big puddle of water, and just north of the puddle of water was a half-eaten packet of knickknacks. And we all know the waste pickers, and that's why I'm so keen to support the waste pickers and the entities that are going to talk today. And the waste pickers' families live on these landfills. The children are born on the landfills. And the little child had gone, just before I could stop him, and he picked up the knickknacks and was eating it from that packet, from that water. And you can imagine with the disintegrating cow that's there. That to me was, wow, guys, what are we doing? And if anybody wants to see it, we can take it. So when we sit in our corporate offices, we sit in our silos and that, we don't see the impact, because your waste is one bag. But imagine with the replication of the population. So sometimes we need to look through different lenses to see what we want to do. So with all the speakers here, I think they're going to be brilliant. I hope I haven't forgotten somebody, but we've got Daryl that I think is working with polyurethane, one of my old bad sins. For 18 years, I worked in heavy engineering division, creating waste. And that's why I'm so driven now to actually do the green energy and do things to make atonement for the wrongs that I feel I did through the companies that I worked with. And we also have the other one that I haven't mentioned, Asia. So all of them are fantastic speakers. I've seen their presentations and that, and I think we're going to be enthralled. But I do want to encourage everybody to pay attention. And I want to give you an example. They say, you can see my broken shoes here, because I'm normally in safety boots. I'm not used to being a girl. So I've got my shoes are really broken. I can actually show you. I saw it this morning. They've got a hole in it. The shoemaker's shoes are broken. So the other side of my life, I take off my waste energy hat, is to drive green energy. And green energy is a difficult conversation in South Africa. It's encompassing a lot of technologies. It's wind, it's batteries, it's PV, solar panels, it's inverters, it's tons of cabling. And we can't get the just energy transition to take place in South Africa. We all know the challenges with load shedding. We all know the challenges within government and all the different entities. And I decided, right, I'm going to go and build the most phenomenal project that serves to speak to all of the entities. One is the community development. So we are building a 60 megawatt, which is now soon going to be 160 megawatt PV project for a mine. The mine, I encourage to capex it themselves. We're putting down a 187 megawatt hour battery with a 40 megawatt inverter. And we've built 11.2 kilometers of power lines, and we've done an 88 kV substation upgrade. And I'm so chuffed. I'm saying, wow, guys, look, I'm doing this. Look, we've got community development, 400 people from the community that we've taught to upskill. And we're wheeling. Everybody's heard about wheeling. You can't wheel energy. Believe me, we're going to wheel energy. We're going to prove it to the world. And we've made it sustainable. And we've proved to the mine that we can give them security to supply, sustainability and that. But what happens? I'm at the late stages of my project, and I've got 132,000 PV panels. And I look at these panels and I think, wow, because we are a nascent technology, we're evolving fast. Cool, we've got the greatest panels. They're 585 watt, they're bifacial. Guess what, guys? My suppliers told me I'm willing to exchange for you to get to the 615 watt, which is going to optimize the energy space. So the evolution of this technology, the evolution of my inverters, the evolution of I've got 187 kilometers of DC cable. It's going to degrade. And I'm looking at these things and I'm thinking, wow. And remember, the shoemaker's shoe that's broken. But guess who I can phone? I can ring up Patricia. There's my colleague Ron sitting yesterday. Say, please, I need to have my extended producer responsibility program and that in place. I need to ensure myself, because my panels are going to start breaking. My panels need to be replaced. But let's go to the batteries. Let's think of the conversation in South Africa just on batteries. You all know about batteries. Batteries could be in your hearing aids, in small parts and that. But think of the energy transition for South Africa. The only way that we're going to do the transition, and I'm telling you now, this is what's going to happen with South Africa, it's cast in stone, is that the foundation for the transition is going to be built on storage. Our grid cannot be expanded anymore. Our grid is at its life, and it needs about 200 billion rand to do infrastructure upgrades. So the only way you can do it is by standalone and co-located storage systems. We are going to have hydro storage. We're going to have all the other storage solutions. But for now, to do that transition, it's going to be the lithium-ion batteries. It's going to be battery storage solutions. Rewind, go back to my project. 2 weeks ago, France and China started delivering my batteries. For the first time, I realized the impact that my storage system is going to have. And that as a responsible custodian for the mine and for South Africa, I have to ensure that these batteries, although that they're saving grace for that mine, are not going to disrupt the environment, because I still, on the other side of my hand, said, I'm doing green energy because I champion the environment. So how can Joe do green energy and champion the environment if I have nowhere to go with my batteries? And that's the challenge that I put to Patricia and to Stefan and the team. Said, are we geared for this? There are 4,092 lithium batteries on my site that weigh 320 kgs each. When you read it in paper, and when you're an engineer and you're doing your critical design, you're doing it on paper. Guys, it's very different when these things arrive. I had container trucks coming from the harbor in reefers where the guy hands the container over to me. And in the containers, only 26 of these batteries. I've got 4,092 coming to site. I am training my forklift drivers. I'm training my crane operators. I'm going absolutely crazy to make sure that I better handle these batteries, that they don't disturb the environment. But where do I send it if something does happen? And where do I send it in the degradation period over the next 15 years? I'm going to be sending it to circular energy, because I know that I've paid my producer responsibility fees. And I know that institutions like circular energy are going to work to see that they are responsibly recycled or contained. And if I don't do that, what is the next person going to do? Because I'm sitting worrying. Guys, have you thought of all these malls and all these spaces and all these homes in this load shedding period? We've all bought batteries. Everybody's got an inverter and a battery. Have you checked the class? Have you checked where it comes from? You know what I mean? It is really scary. And this is why today is a very serious conversation just on the recycling from the energy space. I was talking to one of the recycling gentlemen, Stefan, where no one has catered for the wind blades. I'm going to go and get the wind blade from Ceres so we can do a project and see how we can dispose of it. We have to do these initiatives. And guys, these initiatives aren't paid for. They're not going to give you money in your pocket, in your back pocket, as corporates or anybody else. But it is going to give you the ability to report your ESG. It is going to give you the ability to do those tick boxes. And it is your responsibility. And I think that's the difference of what these conversations are. What is your responsibility, or what is good for you? And what we need to do is we need to be thinking of each other, and we need to be thinking of the next generations. Because if we are on the trajectory that we're now, I can give you stories on the PV farms, and that's antithesis to what I stand for. Because I stand for the renewable project. I stand for all the PV projects. There's 120 REAP projects, all 75 megawatts and 80 megawatts. I know that those panels that came out in 2010 have been changed. Where are they? Patricia, can you tell me? Do you know? We don't know where they are. Guys, they're in a landfill somewhere. And it is the most disruptive to the landfills. And so for this, I'm championing is on the renewable energy space. And then I can put back my renewable energy hats on and address everybody. So when we talk to government, I sit on NECOM, which is the National Energy Crisis Committee, and I have insight into what we're trying to prove and how difficult the conversations are. Guys, the government is not our enemy. The government is our friend. But the government needs the private sector to champion it. If you look at the deficit that we have in the energy nexus, nobody's going to come and build these projects. Private sector is going to build these projects. Government can't pick up this producer responsibility and EPR schemes and make them happen. We have to make them happen. And if you try and do it on your own, and I don't know, Neil's going to bless me if I swear, but it's like fighting against thunder, guys. You can't just be somebody in isolation. You have to replicate. And by replicating, we stand together. And just this assembly of people, I didn't say bunch, but I almost said bunch, but sorry. this grouping of people, this assembly of people, we can make that difference. Imagine the domino effect if we could replicate this. We could really make the difference. And that's the message. I had a brilliant speech written, and I'd like to share it later. But I think here I really wanted to speak to all of you from the heart. I really want to set the tone of this conference, that we sit up, that we listen, and that we think. And thank you very much.